So we've primarily been in the key of C, but we've added in the key of F, right, where we have that B flat. And then I want us to explore today the key of G as well. We'll also add in the key of D eventually, but not today. So I'm going to bring back up a familiar chart. Okay. This is a chart we've seen lots of times, right? This is our blues chart right here. Let me just click this to make it a little bigger for y'all. So we're not actually going to play blues today, or at least not right now. But what I want us to do is we're going to start with just a little bit of music theory. So the blues uses three different chords, right? We have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. And I think we're familiar with that idea by now, yeah? Let me switch it so I can see all of you. There we go. So the 4th chord that we often use is the 6th chord. And the 6th chord is always a minor chord. The 1 chord is major, the 4 chord's major, the 5 chord's major, and the 6th chord is minor. So just taking a look at the key of C here, right? So look at that C7. Ignore the 7 on there. The C is the 1 chord, right? The 4 chord is the F. The 5 chord is the G. So what is the 6 minor chord then? The A minor chord. Remember, it starts back over after G. So our main minor chord that we use in the key of C is the A minor. And those are our 1, 4, 5, 6. C, F, G, A minor. So in the key of F, which we have started to get a little comfortable with, we get F as the 1, B flat as the 4, C as the 5, and that makes our minor chord, the minor 6, the D minor. Make sense? Any confusion at all on that? Because if there's any confusion, I want to go over that now.
So it's a whole step.
It's
as opposed to a half step.
exactly. Exactly. The 6 is the next one up. Yep. Really, really straightforward.
Say again, when do you use this pattern?
So this isn't a pattern that you necessarily use. It's more that when you're playing in that key, almost any song in the key of C is going to use the 1, the 4, the 5, and the minor 6.
Okay.
So that's why when we were playing all those songs that we were jamming to on Saturday night and we moved them to the key of C, they were basically all C's, F's, G's, and A minors in those songs. In the key of F, it'll be F's, B flats, C's, and D minors. So in the key of G then, we have G, C, D, and E minor. Does that make sense?
Daniel, I'm a little dense, I think. On the screen, where you have two G7s at the lower left and then right next to your picture.
Oh, yeah. Ignore the chords. Sorry, Ray. I'm only looking at the chart in the... I can even just do it this way. Here. Where'd our blues go? There we go. I'm only looking at this chart. That's all I'm using for us. And I'm just using it as a quick chart. In fact, we could probably chords in the key of C. Let's see if we can get a chart that helps us this way. Someone must have made the chart I'm looking for. Oh, great. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Yep. Open image. Nope. Okay, is everyone seeing this okay?
Yes.
It's a little fuzzy, but whatever. Okay. So when the Roman numerals are capital, that means that it's a major. When they are lowercase, it means it's a minor. Okay? So in the key of C, the one chord is a C. The two chords a D minor, the three chords an E minor, the four chords an F, the five chords a G, the six chords an A minor, and the seven chord is a B. Make sense? So they even turn the 1, 4, 5 blue here because those are going to be the most common chords in any key. Is the 1, 4, 5. And the next most common chord will be the minor 6. So in the key of C, we have the C, then the D minor, then the E minor, then the F, then the G, then the A minor, then the B, and then the C. And those are our chords that exist in that key. So for instance, if you wanted to write a song, you could choose from any of those chords in the key of C, and they're all going to sound fine together. Does that make sense? Okay. So what we're going to do today is we are going to explore the key of G. G's, C's, D, which is going to be a newish chord for us. We haven't really touched it much. And E minor, which is a somewhat newish chord for us. And the way that we're going to explore this is we're going to explore it with maybe our very most familiar song, Hashki Venu. We're going to play Hashki Venu, right? This is the Hashki Venu we're familiar with. So if we look at this Hashki Venu, right? C, G, A minor, and F. If we look
Can
at...
you move your picture, Rabbi? I'm sorry.
Oh, yep. So if we look at this Hashki Venu, which we're most familiar with, right? It's C, G, A minor, and F over and over and over and over again. So if we're going to call those numbers, right? The C is the 1, because that's the key we're in. The G is the 5, C, D, E, F, G, right? The A minor is the 6, and the F is the 4. We see that? Does that make sense? So really what's happening here is we have, let's just get rid of the chord lines. Really what we have is the 1, then the 5, then the 6, and then the 4. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So we can switch that over, and if we instead go into the key of G, we're going to get G, D, C, and E minor, right? The 1, the 5, I put these in the wrong order. The 1, the 5, the minor 6, and the 4. If we put it over into the key of F, we're going to get the F, the C, the D minor, and the B flat. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So what we're going to do is we're going to try playing this same song in all three keys, with the goal being really that we're training our minds to recognize that these are the same things and get that familiarity. So we're going to lean into the familiarity of Hashki Venu as a way of training our minds into these other keys. Okay, any questions before we just jump in? Okay, let's jump in. So here we go. Okay, we're going to start just in the key of C, which we're already familiar with. So down, down, up, down, up, G, A minor, and F. Do it again. 1, 5, 6 minor, and 4, C, G, 6 minor, and 4. Okay, real easy, right? This is probably the thing that's most ingrained in us these days. So now we're going to try playing the same thing in the key of F. So this is going to be F. Oh, let me move my picture so it's a little easier to see the names of these chords. And I can move this down so you can see my ukulele. So now we're going to play the F, and then the C, and then the D minor, and then the B flat. So down, down, up, down, up. Here we go. Starting on the F. F. Now C. Next is D minor, and B flat. F, C, D minor, B flat. And you can hear it's the same thing, right? Husky Venu Adonai, right? And B flat. F, C, D minor, B flat. I even ended on the wrong chord. I went to end on the C because I'm used to playing it in C. Okay. Any questions on that? Does that make sense, what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it?
Why isn't 4 B flat?
4 is B flat. What do you mean, Grandma Judy?
Well, we were playing it. I thought it would go 1, 4.
So the
Well, 1,
c-
4 would be C.
so the progression for this song is always 1, 5,
Oh,
6,
okay.
4.
Okay. I see.
Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me just drop this into all of them so we've got it sitting there. Great.
I see.
And here comes.
1.
Let me move my picture again so you can see that a little better. There you go. Okay, does that make sense? Is that helpful to have those listed under there? So now we're going to try this in the key of G, which is not a key that we've played much in. So in particular, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to learn that 5 chord in the key of G, the D key, the D chord, excuse me. I just put my fingers 1, 2, 3 right on top of each other to play the D. But if you want to cheat, you can use a single finger kind of flattened like that if you want. Okay, how's that D feel? Okay-ish? We'll take okay-ish. Practice your E minor, another chord that we don't play much or haven't been playing much, though we did use it a fair amount. Actually on Saturday night when we were jamming. I like Amy calls this the stepping stairs, stair step chord. Is that right? I like that. So let's practice going from one to the other. G to D to E minor to C. G, D, E minor to C. It's actually a pretty progression in the ukulele, these chords. Okay.
And, you know, when you put one finger over the 3 strings for a D, I wish should use a different term than cheating. I feel so guilty.
Yeah, as you should. As you should. It's actually, that's my self-judgment there, that on guitar sometimes I'll play it that way, and it's always me being lazy.
I think it's so much harder to play it that way. My fingers can't do that. Like, I'm terrible at bar chords, so I'm like, that's the more advanced version of me.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, no, there are times when it makes sense to do it that way, actually. Like you can get a D major 7. That sounds kind of nice when you do it that way. Like you're getting ready to play some jazz. Yeah, Linda.
Is D7 D, but you take out the middle finger? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's not always posted like that, so that's a relief because that's a D7.
This is also a D7, Linda?
Yeah, I don't like that one.
It's a different sound, whether that 7 is at the top of the chord or whether the 7's a lower note, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and try this. So G, down, up, down, down, up. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go from G to D. Here we go. Now G, G. Here comes D, D, E minor, and C. Now G to D, E minor, and C. Again. Haskivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Hamidenu Shomrei. E minor, now C. Back to G. Now D. E minor, and C. End on G. Okay, how did that feel for everyone? Good-ish?
Feels awkward to go from E minor to C.
Feels awkward to go from E minor to C. I see that. So, don't tell Ray, but I'm going to call this cheating again. You can always take your middle finger and play the C with your middle finger when you do that move. Also, if that's easier. And then it's a lot easier. You're just moving your middle finger down a string. And I'm tuning again because my new strings are going out of tune immediately. And I bought a 3-pack of strings, speaking of which. So if anyone needs strings, just let me know. I've got extra sitting here. Okay, let's try playing this again. And you can totally try that. Now, who is this feeling pretty comfortable for in the key of G? So if you're feeling pretty comfortable, go ahead and play your D chord now for me. Just play your D. And if you lift up your ring finger, that's a D sus2. Now go and play your D again. And put your pinky down next to your ring finger, except on the 3rd fret. No, that one's hard? Really?
My fingers don't bend that way.
What do you mean bend that way? That shouldn't be a bend.
Start over. Some of us are using that bar chord.
Yeah,
When
okay.
you said lift up your pinky, it didn't make any sense.
Okay. Can you see this? Is this showing up well enough?
But you're using all three fingers to do the D.
So this is a D. This is a D sus2. And this is a D sus4. I usually leave that finger down there. It doesn't do anything because you've got one ahead of it, but... So...
Okay, that's so much easier. So you're saying put your finger on the first string on the third fret. I'm like, this feels like Twister.
Hold on, say that again, Autumn.
I thought you were saying put your pinky finger on the first string of the third fret. And I'm like, my hands don't bend that way.
No. Right next to your ring finger. So on that third string, on the E string that you've got. Yeah, Linda.
Couldn't you just move your ring finger over?
Yeah, you totally can just move your ring finger over too. If that's comfortable, that works fine too.
Can you show us the diagram?
The diagram of those chords? Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
show us the diagram. Then I can figure it out.
let's see.
What are we doing? We're doing a D sus. Is that correct? A D sus2.
A D sus2 should look like. Why is it not popping up? There it is. This is a D sus2 right here. We can even just drop it in here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's easy enough.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Rabbi Daniel, I'm struggling with how to download like the latest version of this document. Because you're putting all this stuff in our in this one document, right? So it's an ongoing thing.
Yes. It's always up to date.
But where is that document? That's what I'm trying to say. I can't find it.
Always the same link. I can give you the link again though.
Thank you.
Well, Danny, would you move your picture so that we can get D sus4?
Yes. Hold on.
Thank you.
So what y'all can do is like click the link and then bookmark it in your browser by like clicking star or hearts or like whatever at the top of your screen, and then you can have it going forward.
Thank you.
I don't know any of that stuff.
Okay, I apologize. It's kind of ugly looking.
You're talking a different language to me.
No problem. We can talk more later.
I'll see if we can, when Alana sends out the weekly reminder email, I'll see if she can just drop this link in there too for folks.
Oh, I can put it on the website.
So
I'll put it on
great.
the website event page too.
Oh,
I'll
perfect.
do that.
Perfect. So if you just click on, if you go to centralreform.org, find ukulele and click on the event, the link will be right there. Thanks, Autumn. And there you go with the D sus2 and the D sus4. Actually, with this D sus4, it lets you lift up your index finger also. It's not how I ever play it, but go for it. Okay. So let's try playing this again.
What isn't G sus4 the same thing?
No, the G. So the D sus4 and the G sus2 are the same chord. You're right. The D sus2 and the G sus. No, sorry. The D sus4 and the G sus2 are the same chord. Which is why I would personally play. That's not how I play a D sus2. I play a D sus or a D sus4. I play a D sus4. Like this. This is how I would play a D sus4 chord. Okay.
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometime, not now, it would be very interesting to hear how it is that these chords, like that you're like, well, you can play it this way, or you cannot put your finger on there and create that A. I don't know. It's just, I have no idea how come there's so much flexibility.
So yeah, so I can explain that as long as we're doing a pretty theory-based class today. Okay. So when we tune our ukuleles, we tune them in standard tuning at least, so that this is tuned to a G, this is tuned to a C, this is tuned to an E, and this is tuned to an A, right? So what we're doing with chords is we are putting our fingers in spots so that the G, right, becomes an A, or becomes a B, or becomes a C, right? And we do that with all of them until we get the right notes that go into a particular chord. So a standard major chord, I apologize if this is confusing for people. A standard major chord is made up of the 1, the 3, and the 5. Does that make sense? So in the key of C, it's C, it's not D, it's E, it's not F, and it's G. So a C chord is a C, an E, and a G. Does that make sense, Linda?
Yep, got it.
When we're suspending a chord, doing a sus2 or a sus4, what we're doing is we're getting rid of the 3 and we're adding in the 2 or adding in the 4.
Okay.
Does that make sense? When we are turning a chord from a major chord to a minor chord, we're taking that 3 and we're lowering it a half step so that instead of an E, it becomes an E flat. So then a C, an E flat, and a G is a C minor chord. Does that make sense? So now look at it here. Let's look at the C again. So remember the 3 notes in a C chord are C, E, and G. So what we're doing when we're designing a chord is we're making sure that every single note that we play on here is a C, an E, or a G. So the first open note is a G. That can stay. That's in our chord, right? The next one is a C. That can stay. That's the name of our chord. Then we get an E. So we actually, just those 3 notes, the 3 strings on their own, strung open, is a C chord. But then the last string is an A, and an A is not in that chord. So what we're going to do is we're going to go A sharp, B, and then C. There's nothing between B and C. There's no sharp or flat there. So then we're turning that into a C, and now we've got a C chord where it's G, C, E, C. Okay, now let's look at our B flat chord again, right? This is our B flat that we've been playing with, right? But I'm going to slide that B flat up 2 frets. So now what we've got is on this G chord, I'm going to put on the 5th fret, which is going to turn it into a C. So now we've got a C there. And then on that next, the C chord, or the C string, we're going to go C, D, E. E's in our chord, right? For the next string, we've got the E string. E, F, G. We want that G in there in that chord. And the next string is an A chord, A string, A, B, C. So what we've done here is we can play another kind of C. So that's a C chord, and that's a C chord. Because in both of them, what we've done is we've made sure that every note that is being strummed is one of the 3 notes in a C chord, a C, an E, and a G. So there's really a huge number of ways that you can form various chords. And the ones I'm teaching you are just the ones that are sort of the what we call the first position chords, meaning the chords that exist right here towards the nut. They're sometimes called the cowboy chords too. At least on a guitar, they're called the cowboy chords. because you can just sit and like sort of sitting around a campfire kind of chords. Yeah, Amy.
So is it critical if you're playing a C, that there's actually a C in it? Or could it just be G and E's in it?
So if it's just a G and an E, it's not a chord. A chord is 3 or more notes.
Even if it's G and another G and an E?
That would not be a C.
That's not a C chord.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you're saying then that you had to make this into a C in that.
Or you could choose not to play it because you do have a C already, right? You've got G, C, E.
Oh, I forgot that you already had that. Okay. So yeah, that's true.
So then when we're making a 7th chord, all we're doing is we're adding in the 7th note, right? So we're going to add in the B, or in this case a B flat, to the C, right? So we've got our A right here. And then we're just going to put our finger on the 1st fret to add in that B flat. And now we've got a G, a C, an E, and a B flat. And that's how we make our C7 chord. So anytime we're playing any chord, this is what's happening. Is we're constructing it so it has those in it.
Thank you.
Did that make sense to everyone? Any questions on any of that? Grandma Judy's like, no, let's play some music.
I'm going to show you on a piano. And
Can
it'll
you just say with the D, like, you know how you said I don't play the D sus that way? Can you just use that example so we go back to that as the example?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, here's the D we're learning, right? So D chord is D, not an E, F sharp, not a G, and an A. D, F sharp, and A. Don't worry, you don't need to memorize when it's going to be a sharp and when it's not. Don't worry about that. Just D, F sharp, and A. So what we've got is we've got our G string. We're going to put our finger on the 1st fret to turn it into an A. Now we've got our C string. We're going to put it on the 2nd fret to turn it into a D. We've got our E string. We're going to put it on the 2nd fret to turn it into an F sharp. And we've got our A string, which is already in the chord. So that's our chord right there, okay? So the 3, remember, is that F sharp, right? Which is happening right here on that 3rd string, on our E string is the F sharp, right? So remember that the way that we turn something into a minor chord is to lower it 1/2 step or 1 fret. So we move that from there to there, and you'll recognize that's your D minor chord, right? That's your D minor, and all that's happening in a D major is you're shifting it up. But you can't really shift it up because it's uncomfortable that way, so we have to play it in a whole different way with our fingers, right? But all that's happening is this is going from here to here. That's the only difference between the major and the minor. Now, when we're playing a sus chord, we're getting rid of the 3 and we're replacing it with the 2. So what's below the 3? Just leaving it open. So now we've got a D sus 2. Then if we play the 3 again, and instead raise it up so it's a 4 instead of a 3, then we get a D sus 4. Did that make sense, Linda?
Yes, except now when we saw it that other way, that they could play it like this, right, with just your 2 fingers. So what's happened to this? Say that out loud so I can.
Okay, so what's happening here is we've got our G, right, which is in it. A D sus 4 chord is going to be D, not an E, not an F sharp, a G, because we're adding in the 4, D, G, and A. So we're going to have D's, G's, and A's. So we're going to turn this G string can stay there because it's the 4. And then the next string is the C. We're going to turn that into a D. And the next string is an E. We're not going to have an F sharp because that's our 3. We're going to turn it into a G. And then with the A. So that's a D sus 4. Now, I apologize, this is going to get real confusing for people. But a G chord now. G, A, B, C, D. G's, B's, and D's for a G chord. G's, B's, D's. We're going to get rid of the B. And to make it a G sus2, we're going to go with G's, A's, and D's. But remember that a D sus4 chord is D's, not E, not F, G's, and A's. So it's the same 3 notes in a D sus4 and a G sus2. So they are technically the same chord.
Thank you.
I apologize for that for everyone else. Okay, so I know that this theory stuff can be very dry, but where theory is really helpful is the more that it becomes internalized rather than intellectualized. And you have to start with the intellectualization, right? You have to start by thinking it. But the more your fingers know the theory rather than your head, the easier it is to jam. And we really see that in places like in the blues. Oh, I'm switching this around like you're looking at my screen, but you're not. You're just looking at a big picture of me. So when we're playing the blues, it's really helpful to have this theory in mind, because what you want is you want your fingers to know that when you're playing in the key of F, the other chords are going to be the B flat and the C7, or the B flat and the C. And when you're playing in the key of G, you want your fingers to already know that you're going to be dealing with G's, C's, and D's. Anyone who grew up with or knows Not by Might, Debbie Friedman song? Not by might. It's that same progression right there. Okay. Thoughts, questions? We're not going to keep doing this much theory every week, I promise. But it's important for us here. Okay, so then let's go ahead and play some blues, shall we?
Yeah.
So we're going to play blues now in the key of G. So we're going to start, we're going to have, so we're going to have a G7. We're going to have a C7. And we're going to have a D7. And ignore all of these. Actually, I'll just put my picture on top of all of these down here.
Perfect. Oh no, too big.
Yep, I'm going to adjust it. Don't worry. There we go. Okay. So go ahead and play around with these for a moment. We've got our G7, which should be a pretty familiar chord by now. We've got our C7, also a familiar chord. And then we've got our D7. I like to play the D7 with my second and my third fingers. You can play it however you want. You can do 1 and 2 if you want. You can do 1 and 3 if you want. I find that awkward. But I like second and third, personally. So my middle finger is up there, almost like you're playing an F, and then you drop your ring finger below it with a string in between. Okay. Yeah, Linda.
Would you throw in the G sus 2 and 4 in these blues?
You totally can play with it. And in fact, what you can do is you can keep the 7th shape and play the sus.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Same thing works with your D, by the way. You can keep your D7. So actually a D7 sus2 is the same as an A minor chord.
Would you want to throw up those susses over here on the right, and we could play around with them when we're doing this?
I will set that up for next time. We've only got a few minutes left,
right.
so let's play some music together. Okay, here we go. In the key of G, so starting on that G7, here we go. Now a G, now C, now G, now C, C, now G. And that's me playing around with the susses. Now D7, C7, back to G7. Turn it around with a D7. Back to the top, G7, C7, G7, C7, G7. Here comes D7. Now C7 and G7. Turn it around on the D7. One more time. C7, G7, C7, back to G7. Now D7 to G7. Oh, sorry, D7 to C7. Now G7. Turn it around on the D7 and end with a good old G7. How'd that feel? Right, so the hard part of that is probably not actually making the chords. It's instead, at least if you're like me, this is sort of certainly what I ran into there. It's instead getting your head to be playing in the key of G instead of playing in the key of C, which we're used to playing it in, right? And that's why this is a great exercise, because you're training your head to think in the key of G when you're playing it in G. Yeah, Linda.
Oh, I just wished I could do your strum, that's all. I love your cool strum.
Oh, I wish I knew how to explain my strum. I'm doing down, up, mute, up, 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 down, up, mute, up. And the mute is on a down strum. And a mute is just when you use your palm to mute while you strum. Okay. So practice that D over this week. I would, if I were you, I would just practice blues personally, or you could do the Hashki Venu in those keys. That's also a useful exercise. And next week we are going to play through 3 or 4 new songs in the keys of F and D. And then eventually we're going to add in the F and G. And eventually we're going to add in the key of D. And for the key of D, we're going to have to learn an A chord, which we haven't played yet, but it's a very easy chord. Okay, hopefully you're only moderately confused from today and not thoroughly confused. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Dan.